Hello. Okay. So today we're talking about mood disorders, and really there's only two of them that we're talking about. Uh, and yeah, pretty serious ones here. Um, okay. So mood disorders in general are basically extreme emotions. Okay. So categorized by extreme emotions, and the two ones we'll talk about are major depression and bipolar disorder. Um, and I think, I don't know when I was in high school, but definitely now I definitely know people with depression. So I'm sure it varies for you guys, but I imagine a lot of you guys know people with depression or bipolar or family members because it is common. Okay? Okay. Alright, so depression is the common cold of psychological disorders. And what does that mean? It means that it's common. That so being sick, so cold, having a cold is your basic thing that is most common, right? So depression is the common cold. And if you look at this, 5.8% of men and 9.5% of women report it worldwide. Higher or lower than you thought? I mean, it's 6%, and then you get 10% over there. That's a lot, in my opinion. And one thing we'll point out there is women, right? Women experience it more. And we already looked at in the earlier chapter how women tend to exhibit emotions more and they can pick up on emotions more, so maybe that's part of it. Okay, now it's important to note that we all go through blue moods, right? We all go through sad times and maybe even some sad seasons in life where we don't feel like ourselves. But a blue mood is kind of like you're going for a run and then afterwards you're gasping for air because you're tired, you're out of breath, right? Whereas the comparison here for depression would be you're always short of breath. That's the difference there. So yes, we all go through sad and hard times, but when it lasts for a longer amount of time, then that's when it becomes depression, right? Okay, so signs of depression last 2 weeks or more, not caused by drugs or medical conditions or anything like that. So I think we talked earlier about like the girl who lost both of her parents in a car accident. That would be normal for her to go through very sad emotions. And it might be even normal for her to potentially slip into depression, right? Can you get out of it? Yeah. Is it hard? Yes. And it depends too on what's causing it as well. And we'll get to that too. Okay, so here are the symptoms. Lethargy, fatigue. So, kind of just living a normal life is exhausting, right? You just feel tired all the time. And then feelings of worthlessness, and that's the one that's what you hear about, right? Is I'm awful. I suck. There was a video that I can't show you because it's on DVD, but where the lady says, I hate me. I hate me. Which is so sad to hear somebody say. Loss of interest in family and friends. So this is a key component. I think a lot of people when you're sad, sometimes you want your family and your friends, but here, with depression, you don't want anybody, right? You don't want, even if it was normally fun for you or fun for other people, you don't want to. So loss of interest in activities. You don't want to go out. You don't want to, and there's all these reasons because you're tired, because you feel worthless, right? You don't want to go out and go do things with people. So, those are your symptoms there. Okay. And depression can relate to other disorders too. Like anxiety and depression can sometimes go hand in hand. Okay, so look at this. This is all over the world. So two things to point out here. One, the red. So that's females, right? All over the world, females experience it more. Depression more. Okay, then the second thing to point out are the locations. Like USA, would you have expected us, to have lower than some of these other countries? And so let's look at the high ones. Paris. Why Paris? We've said before in other classes that Paris has a very high standard of kind of social life and fashion and expectations and culture. And so maybe that's part of it. Florence in Germany. Beirut, Lebanon. Lifestyle there is harder, potentially, day to day. I haven't really looked into any research on this, but just kind of some thoughts. So here's some celebrities that you may know dealt with it. Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's actually bipolar, so we'll get to that. Gwyneth Paltrow experienced postpartum. So girls actually and guys, I'll give you a 30-second soapbox on this, is that that's a real legit thing that women after pregnancy deal with. I dealt with something called the baby blues for 2 weeks after I had my first one, and it was crazy. My hormones just took over, and I would just cry over like this stupidest stuff that I normally never would. And it was 2 weeks, and then after that second week was over, boom, my body stabilized, my hormones stabilized, and I was back to normal. And the reason I'm saying guys too is if you have a kid one day, understanding that wife, Mr. Marchman would come home and say something, and I'd start crying, and he'd be like, "Wait, what's happening here?" So anyway, that's real. Let's see, David Arquette, Owen Wilson, Heath Ledger, obviously died because of depression. But okay, so unfortunately, the big thing with depression is that it's a cycle, right? And it's very, very hard to break the cycle. So let's say that you go through a stressful experience, right? Trying to think of one specifically. Parents. Okay, let's say parents aren't doing well. Divorce. Okay, let's go divorce. And then that here, okay, you can have a negative explanatory style. And explanatory means that you explain things, right? You explain things negatively. So with depression, it could be, well, it's my fault, right? I'm the cause, and somehow you make yourself feel bad about it, right? And so then that puts you in a depressed mood, and a depressed mood makes you change your behavior, and you don't go out with your friends, and you don't do this, and your grades drop or whatever. And so then, because those are things that normally can boost your emotions, and then another event happens, and it's just this cycle, right? And so later when we get to treatment and therapy, we'll talk about kind of what they do for this, because you have to stop the cycle, right? And that's part of the retraining of your mind. So like I said, explanatory style. So let's say that you go through a breakup. There we go. A normal person would feel upset, right? And say, this is hard to take, but I'll get through this. Whereas in depression, I'll never get over this, right? I see no end in sight. Okay, and then here at normal, I miss my partner, but thankfully I have family and friends. And then over here, they're like, I can't do anything right. Everything's bad, not just this one compartment of my life. All right, and then we talk about external locus of control versus internal locus of control. external on the right. It takes two to make a relationship work, and it wasn't meant to be. So there are external things that are causing it versus internal. It's all my fault, right? And so those kind of demonstrate how your thinking style or explanatory style can mess you up, right? Okay. All right. So pause me. You're gonna watch a video on this guy and why it's important to talk about depression. And he struggles with depression, and you would have guessed it. And that's something I think that's important too, is that depression doesn't always have the face that you think it does. It can be at home and cooped up and that kind of thing, but it also can be the person who's trying to hide it. So that's what this video is about. Okay? So pause me. Okay. And the other mood disorder is bipolar. Alright? What have you heard about bipolar? What do you know, or what do you think you know? So bipolar, if you go to your science terms, right? It's two poles, two ends. So here at depression, or with mood disorders, it was formerly called manic depressive disorder because there's two sides, the manic side and the depressive side. And so they changed this to be called bipolar disorder. But what it is, it's an alternation. So a person who has this is alternating between depression and manic sides. And I think okay, let's go through these. So depressive symptoms, kind of like what we just talked about. Gloomy, withdrawn socially, can't make decisions, tired. Even their thought processes are slower. Okay? And then the manic sides, all right, are elation, which means like euphoria and excitement. All right? There's euphoria. Happiness, desire for action. So now even like physically, they're ready to move. Hyperactive, and it can look like that, even extreme. They have multiple ideas kind of flowing. So the misconception here of bipolar disorder is that people are having a conversation and they flip to their other side. And that is not true. I think there's like a movie, Me, Myself, and Irene, or something like that, old school, where they flip like while they're talking. And that's not it. If anybody knows anybody with bipolar, it tends to be a couple days in one, maybe even a couple weeks in one, and then they switch. And so go from depression, and manic isn't just like, your normal self. It's kind of that extreme happiness, action, hyper side. Okay? All right, all these people here are Walt Whitman, Virginia Woolf, Hemingway. Anybody know who Clemens is? Mark Twain. What do they have in common? They are all writers, famous writers, who struggle with bipolar. But that common thread, that being an author, it says many great writers, poets, composers suffer from bipolar disorder. But the positive side of that, if you go here, is desire for action, is that they get stuff done in that manic side. Hyperactive, multiple ideas, is that bipolar can actually kind of inspire them, their creativity. Demi Lovato, you guys know Demi Lovato, the singer, struggles with bipolar. So there's again of that creative side being able to come out because of it. Okay? Okay. So let me kind of go through this slide and then you can watch the video on bipolar. Okay, so think about mood disorders. Think about biological reasons, psychological reasons, and social reasons that cause it. So obviously biological, we talked about gender. So why why is there a gender thing that's obviously biological, and what are those chromosomal differences? So I told you that females have a higher rate of depression, but if you look at that chart, men have a higher rate of suicide. I don't know if we've talked about this, but why is that? And some people would say women think about it but don't have the guts to do it, right? And guys are a little bit more action-oriented, potentially, not as fearful of that. So yeah, increasing suicide rates, especially teens, is that biopsycho or social? That's social, right? There's something in society that's causing depression and suicide rates to go up. Bullying, social media, expectations about how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act. Everybody's posting their best pictures on Instagram, but really their days might suck. Okay, the biological component here is that it runs in your family. It's genetic. Depression is genetic, which it can be scary if you know somebody in your family with depression. Another biological is depression has been linked to a reduction of serotonin. So that's that neurotransmitter. And so one of the ways the drugs to help depression would help increase serotonin, right? Okay. Brain area. So if you can see, look at these two different brain scans. This is 1 day apart from the depressed state to the manic state. Isn't that crazy? So there's obviously a biological component there. And then lastly, the cognitive aspect that explain mood disorders. Their thoughts. There's obviously, especially with depression, that cycle, right? There's that cognitive explanation for it. Okay? Oh, you can't see. There's the rest of that. Okay. I think you're going to watch a younger girl who is dealing with bipolar and kind of talks about the realities of that. All right. And then the next day we'll do schizophrenia.